Hi, class. Welcome. I've got a great treat for you. Sitting here with me is Nick Davis, owner, proprietor of Medium Plus, master sommelier, funky jazz bassist, world renowned beverage expert. And what he's going to do for us today is he's going to teach you all about deductively analyzing a wine and how a master sommelier will go ahead and break that down.
Well, I am honored by your praise, and I'm not worthy, but it's a pleasure to sit here with you. I know we've been friends for many years, and I guess we'll just talk about the wine in the glass.
Yes, sir.
It's as easy as that. So, gonna go through a description of this wine first, based on how it looks, the visual, how it smells, the aroma, and then how it tastes, the wine on the palate. And then we'll boom, put those pieces together into what it might be based on those clues. Kind of a combination of logic and instinct. So first things first here on the visual, this is of course a red wine. It is it's showing a density of color. It has quite a bit of color. This would usually indicate a grape with a high level of pigment. I'm seeing a change in the color from the center out to the rim, so that might indicate an aged wine. And there's a little bit of sediment in the glass, which helps to drive home the idea of an aged wine. And there's going to be aromatic elements that we can use to see if that clue is correct or not. And then actually I'm seeing some sediment on the glass, so these clues are all kind of matching up here. Overall, there's we can tell that there's alcohol in the wine because it has tears, and that's about what we can tell. But when I spin the wine around, I see a bit of the color sticking to the glass, so maybe that helps to agree with this suspicion of a thicker skinned grape variety. Leaves some staining of the tears. Ooh, that smells delicious. So on the nose, the wine is sound and correct. There's no obvious problems with the wine, but it does have a high-toned element to it, which is characteristic of a lot of classic styles. That smells a little bit like balsamic vinegar, or just a little tickly sensation on the nose from elevated alcohol. So that helps to indicate the climate that this might be coming from, maybe a warmer climate. So already we have some clues. This is a thicker skinned red wine from a warm climate that probably is from a classic region. Well, I don't want to go too deep into it yet. So let's just keep going. Let's now describe the aromatic intensity, and that's how much aroma is jumping out of the glass. And I'd say that this is quite an aromatic wine, and I think that aromatic intensity has increased because it's an aged wine.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's got a lot to say.
It really does.
It really does. First things that we can talk about are the fruit types on the wine. And I like to break the fruit types down into three different descriptions. So mostly this is black fruit. So that's the color of the fruit. We're talking about blackberries, black cherry, black currant. And that's the type. The condition of the fruit is showing a little bit dried. And that comes from an aged wine. Usually the fruits go from more fresh character, and as it ages, to a dried character. And then the overall ripeness of the fruit is a clue about the climate that it comes from. I think these are ripe black fruits that are now in a dried condition. The non-fruit aromas are very important as well. So we have a few different check boxes that I go through in my mind. There's green character, there is floral character, earth character, any kind of funky character, any food type of character, and then winemaking. So it's six areas, and we can briefly go through each of those. Floral, I think there's dried red flowers, like dried rose. Green character, I think dried herbs, let's say oregano, keep it simple. Funky character, I would say that there is leather here, like an old leather vest. How about that? An old leather vest. Or cowboy boots. Now that's funky.
I wear both on the weekends.
I remember. I remember that about you. So that's funk. It's not something we would eat per se, but it does have an aroma. But then on food, that can be anything like a culinary savory spice. Let's say cracked black pepper could be a food element. Earth, either organic, something like leaves, or inorganic, like rocks. I think this has rocks and leaves. Even mushroom can be organic. And then winemaking, this is where we're talking about oak, lees, mallow, these things that are done at the winery. I think this has spent some time in a barrel. It has some spice character, like more of a baking spice, sort of a cinnamon, vanilla thing. It also just has an integrated, like it's spent some time resting in the barrel. And we call that élevage. It was raised in a barrel, I think. So that's just on the aroma. We're visual aroma now to the palate.
I've been drinking the whole time. I couldn't resist.
Couldn't resist. So this is a point in the experience where I'm really thinking about what strikes me about this wine. And really it's the structure of it. And we'll get to that a little bit right away. So the wine is, I would say, is dry. There's no sense of sugar in the wine. And even for a red wine, they can sometimes have some sugar. If it's a super ripe, like a Zinfandel or Amarone, those can actually have some sweetness in the wine. And in this case, none of that. The rest of the structure, acid, alcohol, tannin, and texture, we can talk about here. Acidity seems medium plus. So it's elevated, there's some acidity here. Alcohol, medium plus. Tannin is also medium plus. I would say that they're all elevated. They're not to the extreme in any respect, but they're up there. So I think structure is elevated all around. Seeing a similar condition overall with the aromatic elements as we got on the nose. But what I'm sensing more on the palate are those earthy tones, those non-fruit aromas. I think that the fruits come out on the nose, but on the palate, it's really the non-fruits that are kicking in here. And that often is a clue that it's from the old world. Now that's a broad strokes thing, but oftentimes wines that have a lot of fruit, once you hit the palate, that's a new world type of trait. On the old world, if it has more of that non-fruit earthy thing going on, that's a pattern.
Typicity.
Another thing that jumps out on the palate is that barrel character. Those vanillin, or I don't know if that's vanillin. I don't know how the actual scientists say it, but the vanilla flavors, they actually tend to come out more on the palate because they affect the retronasal. Retronasal is kind of like how you actually perceive taste in your whole olfactory system. And the oak character usually comes out once it hits the palate. So all that put together, the wine is high quality. It tastes delicious. I give it a deliciousness score of 2 thumbs up.
I can't stop smelling it.
It's got so much going on.
Yeah.
And another thing you can tell that this is a quality wine is we can tell it's aged. It has these aged wine characteristics. And it's still delicious for being an aged wine. I think about it, it's kind of like J-Lo. J-Lo was one of my favorite celebrities growing up because it's J-Lo. And she was great in the year 2000. And it's 2020. You've seen J-Lo? She's still great. So this is kind of like J-Lo. It's great over time, and maybe even better now that there has been more life experience, as with this wine. So a wine that was built to age, has aged well, is delicious now, maybe more delicious than it was as a young wine. Getting more of those non-fruit aromas, getting to the old world. It's got a lot of color. Spent time in an oak barrel. Okay, now let's kind of piece together what we've got here. So this is where I hit the pause button, and I take all the assumptions I just said, and I actually start fresh, and I think, am I going down the totally wrong direction? Could this be Aussie Shiraz? And I taste the wine again, and I think, is this something totally different? And nope, it's not Aussie Shiraz. I love Aussie Shiraz, but I feel like you should question your assumptions before making your final call. I've tried questioning it, and no, I'm confident. So let's go for it. I think this is a wine from the Old World. It is from I would say a moderate climate. There's still some tartness here and acidity, but it's fully resolved and ripe at the same time. So kind of a moderate climate that gets hot in the summer, but isn't super hot. It also kind of doesn't get super cold in the winter. Let's talk about possible grapes here. This is an aged wine that has retained a lot of color. You can mostly tell it's aged because the core is different color than the rim, and there's sediment, but really there's still a ton of color here. So heavier pigmented grapes. I'm immediately thinking Cabernet Sauvignon family on this wine, just because of that intensity of color for being an aged wine. It also has those dark black fruit characteristics that we were looking at. Cabernet Sauvignon based wines, I think, have a lot of dark fruit elements. Now I'm going to question myself, could this be a Merlot based wine? Does it have kind of plum, reddish fruits? Let's look at the structure. And I think there's a angular nature to the structure and the tannins that would be more of a match with Cabernet Sauvignon. So I'm going to stick with that. Cabernet Sauvignon based wine from the Old World, from France, from Bordeaux. From the left bank of Bordeaux, from the Medoc. This is a classified level wine because it's so dang good. I'm going to say that it's classified. Classic as the day is long. I think this is from, let's like dig in and really go for more of an instinctual call here. What cru of the Medoc is this from? We could be Pauillac, Saint-Estèphe, Margaux, Saint-Julien. We could go crazy and go like Mouly on Medoc, but it's not a Mouly. It's got more concentration and power. I think that this is either a Margaux or Pauillac, and I'm going to say Pauillac. I think this is a fifth growth Pauillac, but a fifth growth that performs highly. We're looking at like a D'Armignac or I don't think this is Lynch-Bages. I don't think it's Lynch-Bages. It has kind of that concentrated style. So let's say Chateau d'Armignac. Now, I'm not calling Chateau d'Armignac. I'm saying this wine is in the style of wines that might taste like Chateau d'Armignac or Petit Clos or something like that. More importantly, let's talk about age range. I think this is an aged wine. It has 15 to 20 years of age on it. So that would be 2000 to 2005. And the reason I say that is it has these little bits of sediment. It has resolution. It's drinking really great right now. I think that this is a 20-year-old Bordeaux from Pauillac. Let's go year 2000 in the style of Chateau d'Armignac.
Wow, that's great. Hey, give me one of those, good friend.
Boom.
Hey, I just have to say, class, that this man did not see this wine. This is not scripted. That was all for real. Because what we have here is a year 2000 left bank Bordeaux. We're very close to where the commune was. This is Saint-Julien, but I mean, my gosh, this is Cabernet-based wine from Bordeaux from the year 2000. I mean, this is why Nick here is a master sommelier.
Well,
You have a palate, you have the deduction, the reasoning, and just the ability to really pull it all together, Nick. Good job, man.
thank you, Paul. Let's zoom out and see. Okay, how did that occur? Like we saw my explanation, but the reason that I really was successful with this wine, I got too fancy and went to the commune, and that's not important. What's important is recognizing, okay, this is what aged Bordeaux smells like. Mm-hmm. And the way to know what aged Bordeaux smells like is to taste a butt ton of aged Bordeaux. And the way to do that is to get together with other people who love these wines and source them, whether it's from a place like WineBid or from other great vendors who have aged wines. And if you get 10 people together, you can buy really expensive wines, but have it be somewhat affordable. So let's say this wine would probably cost $250 to purchase. If you get 10 people together, that means everybody gets 2.5 ounces of wine, which is in the ballpark of what we had here. That means for $25 you get to experience a wine like this. And I think that's the way to do it. Is even if it's once a month, twice a month. Now, if you really want to get fancy with it, you want to attend a tasting that has 10 wines in this category side by side, and then you'll know, okay, Bordeaux, Bordeaux, Bordeaux. I get the profile. The profile's there. Because to be honest, when I first picked up the glass, smelled it, I knew it was an aged Bordeaux based on my instinct. But then you have to question your instinct and say all the descriptions, and then at the very end revisit that instinct and say, okay, no, I know this is here because I've had 200 examples of aged Bordeaux, and not intending to say that in a bragging way, but over 10 years, that's really not that many wines, but that's enough to get the profile.
Very true. Yeah, exposure and the more you drink and the more contact you have can only help you learn to familiarize yourself with the flavors, to become accustomed with the typicity, the classical styles that exist throughout the world. And, quite honestly, there's not going to be a better way to be able to recognize these flavors and all of these very classic notes to wines than truly just the exposure of drinking them. And with that said, I think we should go ahead and
Finish the bottle.
have another glass here. Yeah, go ahead. I'm empty. I couldn't stop drinking. So, but class, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this segment with Master Sommelier Nick Davis here, teaching you a bit about the deduction method for blind tasting wines from the sommelier perspective. Have a great winter. Have a great holiday season. Thank you all so much.